Okay, so again, the theme today is if you have a model where you do telesales, obviously a big piece of that, one of the biggest pieces of it, is generating leads. So today we're going to talk about ways that people in a telesales environment, or maybe not even official telesales, but people that generate sales over the phone, talk about ways that what they use for lead sources. And we tended to try to, for today, the theme was to pick the lower cost options, the more realistic ones that you could do is a low cost way to get started. So we'll talk about phone, telemarketing leads. That's a big one, really. Hiring a telemarketer overseas, that's kind of a popular theme. Using a predictive dialer, online leads, and then try to wrap this up in some sort of logical manner at the end. So if somebody's coming from a call center environment, or maybe you're not even coming from a call center environment, maybe you're just, you've been an agent doing traditional face-to-face business in the past, but because of COVID, you went more to the phone side of things. That's obviously there's you have to get set up, but also generating leads is the biggest issue, and it's usually the biggest expense for people as well. So, that's one of the themes there, is getting in front of people. I mean, you got to have people to talk to generate leads. People who come from telesales, usually that's one of the biggest technical changes for them, is coming from telesales to independent. And then, just the little changes you have to make going into that mode. So, a lot of times you have the ability to take an application and a scope with voice signature. If you want to do that, so if you want to do a scope in an application purely by voice, you have a couple options. You can be an official call center. That's kind of what our webinar was about yesterday, or you can be a quasi call center. Other people, as a quasi call center, they will do enrollments by phone, and then they'll use one of our 2 enrollment platforms, either Connect for Medicare or Sunfire. Both are available through us at no cost. If you want to do enrollment by phone, purely by phone, and not have to send them an email or a link, which you need to do on Connect for Medicare or Sunfire, you want to do it purely by voice signature. We have on the Pinnacle website, we've compiled all the companies and their processes to do pure voice signature. And I put the site down there. So it's pfsinsurance.com/virtual office, or not /, you go to pfsinsurance.com, click on the virtual office, and then click on carrier info. And there you will see each company and their process to do pure voice enrollment. Just to go back for 1 minute, people might ask, well, why can't I just be an official call center? And again, that was what the webinar focused on yesterday. There's requirements that are needed. We can certainly help you get set up for those requirements, but some of them are, make it a little tough. But for the right people, an official call center is the easiest way to go, because you can do all voice enrollment. But the quasi call center is something that most people do, and they can enroll people through Connect for Medicare or Sunfire. But again, using that, you do need to send a text or an email at the end to verify the enrollment. Anyway, the point of our webinar today is leads. So obviously that's always the trick with phone sales. The process and the way you're going to enroll people is important, but if you're not talking to anybody, it really doesn't matter. So we'll talk about a number of low-cost options in the next slides. I'm going to go over them, try to talk about the good and bad for each, and let you figure out then which one you think might be the best way for you to go. I will tell you, I do have a bias in this. Right from the start, I can tell you, I think the quickest and easiest way ultimately is telesales leads, but I see a lot of people use it, do a lot of different methods for phone sales. So we'll go over the different options that agencies and agents under us use. One thing about all this is just a quick side note. If you're going to do phone sales, the tendency is for people to do phone sales in multiple states. Just be careful with that. If you're getting into phone sales and you want to get contracted in a whole bunch of states, just realize there are not a lot of the companies do charge non-resident appointment fees and licensing fees. So if you're expanding, adding a bunch of states, that's certainly something you got to be aware of. Some companies get you for a non-resident appointment fee in every single state. Other companies like Aetna don't pass them on to you, so you don't have to pay them. But that's something we could certainly give you more information about if you need it. Okay, so we'll start with telemarketed leads. That's what we see used the most often for phone sales. It's not the only way, but we certainly see a lot of that. When you use a telemarketed lead, the thing you need to know is telemarketed leads will always be supplement leads. So because that's what they need to do, is they need to telemarket for supplements to be compliant, because you can't cold call for Medicare Advantage. However, even though they'll be labeled as telemarketed leads and are labeled as supplement leads and they're using a supplement script, most of the candidates will be MAs or duals. And we've tried a million different ways with supplement leads to get actual supplement prospects, and you will get a few, but it doesn't matter what you do. Ultimately, the prospects are going to be Medicare Advantage or dual prospects, no matter what you do. So just so you're aware, if you haven't used telemarketed leads before. What you need to know is when you talk to that person and it turns out they're really interested in an MAPD because they don't know the difference between supplement and a MAPD, or maybe they're a dual candidate, you have to know how to deal with that situation compliantly. We have other webinars that go over that. I won't do it today because it'll make our webinar time go on too long, but there is a set way you handle that in a compliant manner. So telemarketed leads are nice because they can be as low as $10 per lead. We have a company that we use. You can use with us whatever one you want, but if we can suggest some, of course. We have one that will do a telesales lead, telemarketed lead for $10. They do record the call. They ask standard questions. They will send you the recording for you to call same day. So same day they call them, you'll get the recording. That way you can call, and you don't kind of lose their interest over time. They're quick and convenient. You can order them and get them the following week. You can order exactly how many you want, which tends to make them one of the more popular options when selling over the phone. And what we'll do is when we go over the next few slides, it'll kind of give you a little information so you can compare, okay, $10 per lead versus these other strategies, because some of them initially might seem cheaper, and ultimately they can be, but they take a little more know-how and a little more trial and error. All these options I'm talking about, they can be expensed through our lead program for those who meet the requirements. Basically, you have to have us be your upline for your Medicare contracts. If you do, you're eligible for our lead program. It's 100% reimbursement for the first 6 months, up to $500 a month. It's 50% reimbursement thereafter, but still up to $500 a month paid to you. Okay, a popular one now is hiring. I would say the popularity kind of peaked a couple years ago, but it's still used a lot. Is hiring somebody overseas as a telemarketing person. One of the sites most commonly used for this is onlinejobs.ph. That's in the Philippines. What that allows you to do basically is it's a company that has a website. They have a bazillion candidates on that site, people that want to be hired. Some for various things, but a lot of them for telemarketing services. And you can hire them for a very low hourly amount and have them make the calls. Usually you can get them for even as low as like $5 an hour. You can get a telemarketer. So that cost is very low, but there are a few things that will take a little time and effort and sometimes drive your cost up. Often you need to go through a number of people to find one that's actually going to do a good job. So that, like anything else, you've sometimes got to sort through a number of them and try them out before you find one that fits. You definitely need to provide that in the lists. We can run you lists for free, but that's something that would need to be provided to your overseas telemarketer if you found the right person. You're going to have to supply them with a predictive dialer as well. Some of them will sit and just manually call, but you're just not going to get good results. They really need to use a dialer. Assuming that you can find a good candidate, get them at the right price, which usually you can, this strategy can work. You know, where does the price point come out? You know, by the time you spend your time, pay them hourly, give them lists, which like I said are free, but also pay for a predictive dialer for them. It's hard to say exactly what the price point is there. I think if all things were really smooth and done correctly, you might be able to beat that $10 per lead price from just buying leads from a telemarketer. Other agencies are Predictive Dialer. This is the one that, from an out-of-pocket standpoint, is the least expensive. Predictive Dialer costs can be submitted through our lead program. But basically, a Predictive Dialer, for those not familiar, it's not a robo-dialer. A Predictive Dialer, you pay a monthly fee. There's a bunch of companies that offer them. We have a deal with Prospect Boss where you can get a dialer from them. It's all in the cloud. You can get a dialer for them. It's a 4-line dialer for $79 a month. For those who haven't used one before, basically, long story short, you upload phone numbers into that dialer. Again, we can provide lists. They'll be do not call compliant. You can upload them into the dialer, and it will simply just dial and only connect you with people that answer the phone. When you run a dialer versus just old school on the phone calling people, the dialer is substantially faster. A 4-line dialer is sometimes four times faster than just standard calling. So dialer will make it much quicker. When you do this, when you run your lists, people tend to like to do T65s. That's fine, but it's going to greatly limit your range of people you can call. A lot of times when I see dialers used, when they're done the best, it's calling an age range. Maybe people turning 65 in the next 12 months all the way up to people, say, 72 or 75, whatever age you want to pick. So just calling T65s is nice, but it certainly will make you get less appointments. Your script, if you do this, should be very simple and basic. Your price point obviously is really good, except for it's going to take a lot of hours. I mean, you're going to put a lot of time into this if you're making the calls yourself. You're just simply paying for the dialer. That's your only expense, but your time is worth something as well. So this way is inexpensive. It can be time-consuming, and you've got to kind of, get your script down and get everything down to where you need it to make it so you can make enough appointments an hour to make it make sense. And people say, is cold calling without a dialer work? I don't think so. I don't think it's time efficient at all. So if you're using a dialer, though, it can. Online leads. So a lot of people do phone sales using online leads. The concept there is, if you're not familiar with how an online lead is usually generated, usually the company selling the online lead, it's a paid ad they put online. A senior goes on there, they click the paid ad, it says, hey, click here, enter your information, and get quotes on plans. So they do, they enter their information. And then there's really fine print at the bottom that says, great, up to 6 agents will call you. They don't realize it, but they've entered their contact information, they've authorized agents to call them, so the agent can give them a call. They don't actually get a quote, and that's a phone lead, or an online lead rather. So a lot of people use them. They can work very well. The price point can be good. You got to find the right vendor. Online leads are crazy. The prices will range. You can get a vendor down to $8 on an online lead, but you'll get some companies, they want for the same lead, they want $25. So you got to put time and effort into finding a good price point with a good vendor. The other problem with online leads the other challenge I should say, is you might find a vendor that's working great for you and then suddenly they can't get you lead volume or they drive their price up. So when you're working online leads, there's a constant need for you to find price points in new vendors, to have some backups in case the current one you're working with goes south on you. Also, to work online leads, you got to be set up correctly. You need a CRM. It's very hard to do it without one. So you need a contact manager. When you buy the online leads, you need them fed to your CRM automatically, and you either need an auto dial to go out when that lead comes in, or you need it automatically go to your cell phone so you can call it immediately. The idea of getting online leads and just calling them when you get to them will not work, because you got to remember these leads are sent out to 5, 6, 7 agents, the same lead at a time. You've got to be first, and there's going to be somebody calling them who is calling them literally the second they come in. So you got to be set up correctly to make it work, and you also need automated emails and texts that can go out along with your phone call. We have modules on that. We have agents that do that very successfully. There is setup. You do have to know what you're doing, but it can work if you're set up correctly. Facebook leads are also really popular now as well. Facebook leads can work. I mean, we see people do them successfully often. The lead quality on them can be very good too. If your advertising on the Facebook lead is pretty straightforward, you can get pretty good leads. The problem can be with Facebook is if you don't do it well, you can wind up spending a ton of money on a campaign and not get anything to show for it. If you're going to do Facebook leads, you really need to do the paid ads. There's no way around it if you want to get any kind of volume. Generic Facebook ads, or organic, I should say, can work. Like, you can use just regular Facebook and ultimately generate some leads. But if you want volume, you're going to have to do the paid leads. Facebook does have everything on there. They have the contact form built in. You can get your demographics how you want them. They have it set up for you so you can kind of target the audience you want. But again, it takes a little work. Most people that do Facebook leads use the Pearl. That is a consumer-facing website that you get through Connect for Medicare or Sunfire. What the Pearl basically does is it's a site. It's approved. It has Advantage, Supplement, and Part D on it, and it's coded to you. So that way it's a link you can put in your Facebook ad. Your prospects can go on there. They click on that link. They can actually get the quote. They can compare plans. They usually will not enroll, even though they can. If they enroll, you get credit for the sale. But the point of it is, you have the contact form to get their contact information, and then they don't feel like they've been fooled because they put their contact information in so you can call them. But they then, through your Pearl, through C4M or Sunfire, they can actually get the quote, compare, and do the things that your ad said they could do. Sunfire is probably a better fit for this, using the Sunfire Pearl, because it can do dual enrollments better than Connect for Medicare can. If you're going to do Facebook, what I would say is, until you really get the hang of it, set a reasonable low budget initially. Don't go guns blazing into this. Ease into it with your budget, and then once you get a little better at it, you can up the budget once you feel comfortable with the lead volume you're getting. So overall, like I kind of said in the beginning, I find that it's usually fairly difficult to beat the price point of the telesales leads for $10. All the other strategies, they certainly can work, and a lot of people use them, and they do work. And if you really get to be an expert on one of those other strategies, you can beat that $10 price point if you're really doing it right. But again, that can take some time and effort to get to that point. So it can work. The other strategies certainly can be more cost effective, but it's not going to happen overnight. So, I use an example here on the auto dialer. You can use an auto dialer. I mean, so that's the lowest cost because you're just paying for the dialer. But you've got to factor your time into that too. So how good are you on the dialer? How many leads per hour are you getting? And factor that in. Close ratios, I get this question a lot. What's the close ratio people get on phone sales? Well, quite frankly, it can range from 0%. So some people will buy telesales leads or do Facebook ads or work an auto dialer and they'll close nothing. I would say the average agent that's doing this will close 10%. I would say, and the best, from what I've seen, close 25%. That is not a lot of people. Those are people that are really good at this, really good with one of these lead types. They're really good on the phone. And like I said, the best at this will close 25%, but I would say the average is about 10% close ratio. I talked over my point there, unfortunately. Well, anyway, so again, 10%. Keep in mind, somebody might say, well, 10% is really low. It isn't really, if you think about it. Right now, the average acquisition cost to write a Medicare plan with agents is about $125 per sale, meaning people are spending about $125 for every sale they generate. So, if you're running around $10 a lead and you're closing 10%, you're doing a little better than the average. Lastly, I wanted to mention SEO. So SEO means like optimizing a website to get organic search for people going on your site. Like, you get your own website, you optimize it well. And are you going to get people going to your site then organically, just searching on Google and stuff, coming to you? The answer is it can work, but it is the Medicare space to get Medicare traffic for prospects is incredibly competitive. You're competing with lead vendors, insurance companies, CMS themselves. It's, you know, the idea that you're going to just build a website and get search coming to it right away, that isn't very realistic. It's not going to happen unless you spend a lot of money, you know, thousands of dollars a month on a budget to get the SEO up. It's really more of a long-term approach. If you are going to do that with a site and try to, you know, use that site to generate leads, the best way to do that really is, I would say, keep it local. So you want to be optimized for search on your site local to your state, your county, your town. That will help. So when you're doing SEO, if you're trying to make your site generate leads, it's got to be local search. Of course, you can do Google paid ads, for example. That can get really pricey, and it's still very competitive. So SEO is something, having a site, I guess to wind this up, having a site is great. It can certainly help you close more sales, because when you talk to somebody, they might go online and look you up just to confirm, yep, you're legit, you're online, because everything online is legitimate, I guess, in their mind. But it's not going to be a great way to generate prospects unless you really ramp it up on the SEO with a budget and again, keeping it local. Well, that's it. I talked a lot for about 23 minutes, but I think you've probably had enough of that. I'll see if we have questions. Again, anybody that registered will get this recording. I'm going to answer the questions. If there's any questions that you don't get time to send into the webinar, just you call us or email us and we'd be happy to answer them for you. So having said that, let me go and look and see if we have any questions. We got a couple. Somebody said, please send me the recording on how to deal with the MAPD DSNP leads compliantly. Okay, we'll do. I got your email address there. I'll copy and paste that or jot it down. It's part of a webinar we did a while back. I'll find that webinar and send it to you, no problem. And then somebody said with Facebook ads, they go to your Pearl. Did you say on Facebook they have a form before they go to the Pearl? Yes. So just to go back for a minute, most people, when they do Facebook ads, it says on there, not all, but most, it'll say on there, you know, get a quote now or get a quote here or whatever it might say, and the people will enter their information on the contact form, so that way the agent gets their contact info. But then when they go to get a quote, they can't really get one. It just says, okay, great, we'll give you a call. And sometimes they feel like they've been misled a little. The Pearl changes that, so you still have the contact form because you want that contact information because you still got to call them. But they enter the contact information, they're rerouted to the Pearl, and that way they can search plans, compare, get a quote, enroll if they want. However, the odds are they are not going to enroll on their own. That's why you still need to call them. Let's see, somebody also said, would also appreciate recording of handling supplement leads that want MedAdvantage. Okay, yeah, I'll jot those down. No problem at all, and we will get those recordings out to you. Let's see, do we have anything else here? If there's no more questions, I'll wait another second here. So if there's no more questions, I think I'll wrap it up for us. If anything comes up that you didn't think of, just, again, shoot an email to me or give us a call. Other than that, I really appreciate you coming on today. I hope this was helpful, and look forward to hopefully seeing you again on future webinars. Thanks.